free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany. Welcome to Randomness, where we talk about a little bit of everything, the deep, the weird, and the real. So take a breath, open your mind, and let's get into it. All right, guys, I want to ask you something. Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation in your head over and over? Maybe it's something someone said to you or didn't say. Maybe it's a relationship that ended and you still don't really know why. Or maybe it's a family situation where nobody will talk about what actually happened. And you just keep thinking, if I could just understand why, if they would just explain, if I could just get them to acknowledge what they did, then I could move on. Yeah, well, me too, damn it. Me too. Today we are talking about closure, and specifically why the kind of closure we're usually waiting for. Well, it's kind of a myth, okay? I know that might sound harsh, but just stay with me because I think understanding this, really getting it, might be one of the most freeing things that you can do for yourself. So let's dive in. So first, what even is closure? Like, what are we actually hoping for when we say we need closure? For most of us, it's some version of this. We want the other person to see things from our perspective. We want them to admit they were wrong, or at least acknowledge our pain. We want an explanation that makes sense. We want to understand why things happened the way they did. Basically, we want the story to have an ending that feels complete, like a book where all the loose ends get tied up nice and neat in the final chapter. And that makes total sense, right? Our brains literally crave patterns and completion. It's how we are wired. And when something feels unfinished or doesn't make sense, it bugs the shit out of us. It's like having a song stuck in your head, but you can't remember the last verse. It just keeps looping. But here's the thing. What we're really looking for when we want closure is usually one of a few things. Validation. We want someone to say, yes, that happened. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, you have a right to feel hurt. Understanding. We want to know why. Why did they leave? Why did they lie? Why did they hurt us? We think if we can just understand the reason, we can make peace with it. An apology. We want them to say sorry and freaking mean it. To show remorse, to prove that what happened mattered. Permission to move on. This is a big one. We are kind of waiting for them to release us from this thing. Like we can't fully let go until they give us permission. And look, all of those things are completely understandable to want. The problem is we're putting our healing in someone else's hands. We're waiting for them to do something they might never do. So here's the hard truth, guys. Most of the time, the closure we're waiting for is not coming, and it's not coming for a bunch of different reasons, you know? Sometimes the person doesn't think they did anything wrong. They have a completely different version of events in their head, and they genuinely don't see what you're upset about. I mean, you could talk to them until you're blue in the face, and they would still be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes they know they messed up, but they're too proud or too scared to admit it. Apologizing would mean facing their own shame, and they're just not capable of doing that. So they deflect or gaslight, or maybe they just freaking disappear. Sometimes they're dealing with their own stuff, like mental health issues, addiction, their own trauma, and they literally don't have the emotional capacity to give you what you need. It's not about you. They're barely keeping themselves together. Sometimes they've moved on and they don't think about it anymore. What was devastating for you was just freaking Tuesday for them. They're not just sitting around thinking about it like you are. And sometimes, this one's tough, they've passed away or you've lost contact and you have no way of reaching them. The opportunity for that conversation is just gone. So you can wait and wait and wait for them to show up with the perfect apology or the explanation that makes to show up with the perfect apology or the explanation that makes everything make sense. But what if they never do? What if they can't? What if they won't? Are you supposed to just stay stuck forever? Are you supposed to, I don't know. And here's the other thing nobody really talks about. Even when you do get closure, it doesn't always feel the way you thought it would. I've heard so many people say they finally got that conversation they'd been dreaming about for years, and afterward they felt empty or still angry or wait, what? That's it? Because the truth is, no explanation is going to undo what happened. No apology is going to give you back the time you lost or erase the pain you felt. At the end of the day, you still have to do the work of making peace with it yourself. Okay, so let's talk about the fantasy for a second, because I think a lot of us have this movie playing in our heads, right? In the fantasy, they show up. Maybe at your door, maybe they call, maybe you run into them somewhere, and they look at you with tears in their eyes and they say, I've been thinking about what I did, and I was wrong. I hurt you, and I'm deeply sorry. You deserved so much better. And in that fantasy, you feel this huge wave of relief, like this weight you've been carrying just lifts off your shoulders. Everything suddenly makes sense. You forgive them, or maybe you don't, but either way, you feel free. You feel whole again, right? That's kind of the dream. But here's what usually happens in reality. If that conversation even happens at all, it's messy. They apologize, but then they make excuses, or they acknowledge one thing but minimize everything else. Or they might even turn it around and make you feel like you're being too sensitive. Or maybe they do give you a genuine apology, but you realize it doesn't actually change anything. The damage is still there. You still have to heal. You still have to rebuild your sense of trust or safety or worth. The fantasy is that closure will heal you. The reality is that closure is just information. It might help, it might not, but it's not magic. And the really hard part, waiting for that fantasy to come true, keeps you in limbo. You're not fully in your past because you're still entangled with this person and what they did. But you're not fully in your present either because you're waiting for something to happen before you can move forward. So you're just freaking stuck. So if we're not going to get closure from them, what do we actually need? I think most of us are really looking for permission to stop hurting, permission to let go, permission to move on with our lives. And here's what I want you to hear. You do not need anyone's permission. You can give that to yourself. And I know that might sound like a freaking Pinterest quote or something, but I'm serious. The validation you are looking for, you can validate yourself. You can say, what happened was real. It was wrong. My feelings are legitimate. You don't need them to agree with you for it to be true. The understanding you want. Sometimes you have to accept that you'll never fully understand. People are complicated and messy, and sometimes they don't even understand themselves. You can make peace with not knowing. The apology, well, you can acknowledge to yourself that you deserved one. Even if you never got it, you can grieve that, and then you can decide to move forward anyway. So here's what creating your own closure kind of looks like. First, Acknowledge what happened. Do not minimize it. Don't make excuses for them. Just tell yourself the truth about what went down and how it affected you. Second, feel your feelings about it, all of them. The anger, the hurt, the confusion, the grief. Do not rush this part. You need to actually process this stuff, not just intellectually understand it. Third, decide what you need to believe to move forward. Maybe you need to believe that their behavior was about them, not about your worth. Maybe you need to believe that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. Maybe you need to believe that you're allowed to be angry and still move on. Fourth, write your own ending to the story. Literally, some people write letters they never send. Some people have imaginary conversations where they say everything they need to say. Some people create rituals, burning photos, releasing balloons, whatever feels meaningful. And fifth, make a choice to stop waiting. This is the big one. You actively decide, I'm not putting my life on hold anymore. I'm moving forward, whether I get answers or not. You might have to choose it over and over again. Some days you'll feel free and some days you'll still be mad about it. And that's normal, Healing isn't linear, but the point is you are taking your power back. You're not waiting for someone else to give you permission to live your life. Okay, so just real quick, I want to talk to you about grief for a second because I think this is a huge part of moving forward. Without closure, you have to grieve the conversation you are never going to have, the apology you're never going to get, the explanation that would have made it all make sense. And that's a real loss. It deserves to be grieved. Maybe you imagined that one day you would sit down with your parent or partner, whoever, and they would finally see you and understand you and apologize for the way they hurt you. And now they're gone, or you're estranged, or you've realized they're just never going to be capable of that conversation. That hurts, and it's okay to be sad about it. It's okay to be mad as hell about it. You're grieving the relationship you wish you had, not the one you actually had. You're grieving the version of them that existed in your head, the one who could take accountability and show up for you. Let yourself feel that. Don't skip over it, but also recognize that grieving is part of letting go. When you grieve something, you're accepting that it's over. You're releasing the hope that it could have been different, and sometimes that acceptance is its own kind of closure. So here's a question I get a lot. Does moving forward without closure mean you have to cut people off? Does it mean you can never give them a chance to make things right? And the answer is, well, it depends. There's a difference between staying open to future resolution and putting your life on hold, waiting for it. You can say, I'm moving forward with my healing. I'm not waiting for you anymore. But if you ever want to have that conversation, I'm open to it, okay? That's keeping the door cracked, not wide open. Or you can say, this person has shown me repeatedly that they are not capable of giving me what I need, and continuing to hope for change is actually hurting me, so I'm closing this door. And that's valid too. So some questions to ask yourself. Is staying connected causing you active harm? If being in contact with this person keeps re-traumatizing you or keeps you stuck in unhealthy patterns, it might be time to create more distance. Have they shown any willingness to change or take accountability? If the answer is consistently no, you might be waiting for something that's never going to happen. What would be different if they did apologize? If you realize that an apology wouldn't actually change anything for you at this point, you might already be further along in your healing than you think. Are you waiting out of love or out of fear? Sometimes we stay connected because we genuinely love someone and hold hope for that relationship. Sometimes we stay connected because we're afraid of the finality of walking away. Those are different things. There's no right answer here. Some people find peace in reconciliation. Some people find peace in walking away and never looking back. Some people find peace in just neutrality. Like that person exists over there and I exist over here and we're both fine. You get to decide what serves your healing best. Here's one of the hardest parts of all of this: learning to be okay with not knowing. We want everything to make sense. We want clear reasons and neat explanations. But life isn't always like that. Sometimes people do shitty, hurtful things and there's no good reason. Sometimes relationships end and you never really understand why. Sometimes things just are what they are. And you have to find a way to make peace with that. One thing that helps is reframing. Instead of, I need to understand why this happened, try, I accept that this happened, and I'm choosing how to move forward from here. Or instead of, I need them to validate my experience, try, I know my truth and that's enough. Instead of, I can't move on until they apologize, try, I'm moving on because I deserve to, with or without their apology. It's a subtle shift, but it puts the control back in your hands. And here's something I've learned. You can have unanswered questions and still have a full, beautiful life. You can have unresolved hurt and still find joy. You can carry some grief and still be whole. You're not broken just because someone else couldn't give you what you needed. The work is learning to give it to yourself. Okay, so let me just say this as we wrap up. If you're waiting for closure from someone, I see you. I know how much it hurts. I know how unfair it feels to not get answers or acknowledgement or an apology you absolutely deserve. And I am not saying any of this to minimize that pain or to tell you to just get over it. Your feelings are completely valid. What I'm saying is that you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to put your healing on hold until someone else decides to show up for you. You can create your own closure. You can validate yourself. You can decide that you've waited long enough and you're ready to move forward, even if it's messy and imperfect and you still have questions. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can truly set you free is you. So give yourself permission to stop waiting, permission to grieve, permission to let go, permission to move on, permission to live your life fully, even without all the answers. You deserve that. All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If this one hit home for you, I would love to hear about it. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that follow button. And as always, take care of yourself, and I will talk to you guys next time. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow. And remember, keep your energy grounded, your mind open, and your curiosity alive.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.